Welcome to the Shift podcast, where midlife, medicine, and mindset meet. We're breaking the silence around women's health and simplifying the path to feeling strong, clear, and better than ever. Hosted by me, Heidi Swap, with insights from Dr. Vohn Watts and stories from real women, the Shift podcast is here to challenge the narrative, empower you with information, and create a new vision for your next chapter. Welcome back to the Shift podcast. I'm here with Chelsi Wood, who is my personal trainer. I'm here with Dr. Vohn, who is not even my functional medicine doctor. But I tell you what, this guy knows a lot about a lot of stuff. And so I'm thrilled that he's here. And today what we want to do is we're going to kind of dive a little bit into Chelsi's story. And I want to kind of share and get into like her background and what motivates her, just so that as we kind of build through the rest of the podcast, that you kind of have this sense of Chelsi and who she is and kind of what makes her tick and why she is such an amazing expert in this whole field of wellness, of self-improvement, and understanding the mind and body connection. I was joking with her before we went live, because it wasn't, I feel like it was like a year ago, and I don't know if it was her birthday or Mother's Day or Valentine's Day or something, but her husband shared this incredible description of her. And he talked about how she is just a lifelong learner and that she voraciously loves to learn. And, you know, I've known Chelsi for about 4 years, and I'm telling you, she is either like in a new course or taking a new certification or going to be in some like mastermind or going somewhere and doing something. In fact, she just got done with this supremely insane yoga training. And one day she was like, and we had to sit crisscross applesauce. What do you call it? We had to sit for like 12 hours. I don't know how long was it. It was only like literally like monk hours. And I was just like I can't believe it. 4 hours. Think about 15 minutes is hard, right?
Silent seated meditation for 4 hours.
4 hours. Crazy. So
that's discipline.
Chelsi is, and I said this a little bit, not even jokingly, like legitimately in our very first podcast, one thing that I said is that Chelsi is like times 100 intense, and everything that she does intense. Okay. And so that's one thing that you have to know. But to start out with, we're going to kind of do this a little bit interview style. Chelsi, tell us where you grew up. Well, I guess tell us, are you married? Do you have children? Tell us about your family.
Yes. So married, I've got 4 kids. I've got 3 boys and a girl. And my oldest is 18 and youngest is 9. So after 3 boys, when they said girl, I was like, I don't know what to do with a girl. And she's been so good for us. Just to learn to love each other.
So cute.
She's a good one.
And you've been married to your sweetheart for
almost 21 years.
Just the time flies.
Yeah, seriously.
And how old are you?
I'll be 40 next week.
Did you guys hear that? This young buck, this little young, cute little thing is about to turn 40. So it's pretty exciting. 21 years of marriage. I
was 19 for a week and then got married. So, yeah, it was fast.
And so where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Idaho. My husband and I met at Idaho State University, and I was actually doing generals towards dental hygiene at the time. And I had always wanted to do cosmetology school, and the university actually had a cosmetology program. And so I told Gordon that I was interested, and he's like, well, you're the one that's going to be working, do it. So I did. So I did cosmetology school, and I actually had a nail salon out of our house for a couple of years. And then Gordon got a job in Utah. So we left Idaho and came to Utah, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm just going to chill out at home and be the best mom.
You heard it here. She said the words chill out.
Yeah. Yeah.
She has never chilled out.
No. And so I tried it for about a year and a half, and then I wanted to do more. And so I had taken an aerobics class in college, and good old step aerobics back in the days. Loved it. And
I love step aerobics, actually.
It's so good for
really
the ADD
good
brain. It's so good. Yeah. Busy brains love it. And so I did a certification. I was actually pregnant with number 2 at the time. And then I started just subbing at a local rec center, and it kind of evolved into taking on a class and taking on another class. And at one time I was teaching up to 12 classes a week at a local gym. And we, fast forward, obviously we got 4 kids, and I moved away from group fitness, stepped over to Orange Theory, was there for a couple years, and then COVID happened. And so total disruption in my world with COVID happening. Like, I didn't realize how much I needed group fitness and I needed the gym.
When you say group fitness, I would think that Orange Theory is also group fitness. What do you mean by group fitness?
So just, working out in a group. Like, I think that there's something to be said about an energy that happens in the group space. And you felt it, like you've had a one-on-one personal training experience.
Yeah, I don't like it.
There's too much attention on it.
She's so aggressive. She's watching me the whole time.
Yeah.
And counting. I like it. There's no skipping. There's no 1, 2, skip a few.
No cheating.
Yeah. But then you also have the energy of working out in a group. And then when you start to see other women that are like lifting heavier than you, like you get curious, like maybe I can do that too. And so I do love the group space for that reason. And so I actually prefer small group over one-to-one, just because energy is different. So
yeah.
Okay.
And so we talked a little bit in our very first episode that you and I kind of connected on Instagram before you ever became my trainer. And we were kind of joking, and you said, well, I'm not yet through my certification. So what did it take to be able to be a personal trainer?
So it's online certifications. There's multiple companies that you can do it through. And so I did mine through Precision Nutrition. And, but there's several companies that you can go through. And I've actually done several nutrition certifications since. That was just the one that I started with.
Was fitness part of your family? How did that tie into your growing up? Was it kind of an alignment?
Yeah, for sure.
Was your mom doing the Jane Fonda or something?
No. Richard Pryor. Oh, not Richard Pryor. Was it Richard Simmons?
Richard Simmons, that's right.
My mom was doing Richard Simmons.
No, I never saw Richard Simmons, but she actually played softball. And I remember going to softball games and watching my mom play, and she was good. And so I played softball growing up also. And then I did a little bit of gymnastics, and then I got into cheerleading and did competitive cheerleading even into college. Did all-star cheerleading. I was actually pregnant with our first on triple high stunts at national competitions.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I absolutely loved it. So,
how tall are you?
5'3".
So here's the thing. She kind of seems short. But here's the secret that Chelsi has. When you watch any of her yoga videos, this is what you need to know. She has extra long arms. It's abnormally long arms. The ratio, whatever that, like the special, like this to this is your this, like it's out of whack with her. And mine, extra short. And so I cannot reach. I think I'm just as flexible, but I can't reach my feet at all.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, I'm serious. You go follow her on Instagram, and occasionally she'll like post a flow, and her entire hand like just wraps straight around her feet. I'm like, oh, that's her extra long arms. I don't know. It's because you've done so many like.
Nope. Well, you are like fingertip to fingertip. That's supposed to be your height. So everybody pull out a measuring tape.
I know. I'm convinced that mine is shorter and yours is longer.
I'm 3 inches longer.
Yeah, some people have it longer. You see a lot of basketball players, they're like 6'9", but they have a 7'2" wingspan or something like that.
I did not get that. It's so unfair. So when I watch those yoga videos, I'm like, well, yeah, everybody who has extra long arms, go straight and do yoga because you feel like a freaking baddie.
But you have the advantage with the short arms when you're doing pull-ups. It's much more difficult than long arms. So there are advantages. You got to find which are your advantages.
I don't like pull-ups either.
Yeah. But I was a water skier growing up, and so
maybe that's what happened. Is it just kind of
maybe it lengthened me out? That's
maybe
it.
That's
You'll
it
go
because
with it.
that was back in the day. Like I used to be not a professional water skier, but I used to try to get through a buoy course or whatever. And that is hard.
Like you did that?
What? Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Watch these
That
people.
seems more professional than the average skier. I don't know any of my skiing friends that went through buoy courses.
Oh, come on. I mean, that was like the thing. If you could like get all the way out and...
Did you grow up in Utah?
I could only get around like maybe one, skip one and get around the other one. Like I was stronger on one side or the other side. But like you wanted to be able to get all the way out. And if you could you had to let go.
You
had to let go with one arm to be able to get around the buoy. And now you watch people and they're like doing this surfing thing. Like literally anyone can do it. It's not even hard. You don't even have to like get laid out. You don't need a single muscle.
Okay, I'm not going to tell you guys that. That's what I do. I surf. I got a surf boat.
Literally not a single. There's no challenge whatsoever.
Yep.
Well, you start doing 360s and that kind of stuff.
Still need a single muscle involved. But no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's
very different water skiing. Thank you.
If you know, like somebody is strong if they're a good water skier, because when you can pull yourself on those buoys, it is insane. And you don't even do that anymore because just trying to get up on a slalom ski, what it does to your hamstring. I don't recommend it. Anybody listening to this podcast, don't try it. Like cartwheels and getting up on one ski. Stop for like.
Well, you can't go water skiing anymore because the lake's full of wake surfing boats that are ruining the water, so you don't have any nice glass.
And that's true. And you can't like the boats won't even like get up on a plane anymore because they're just like, I just wanted to like
bigger the wake, the better.
Yeah.
Whereas back in my day, you wanted it as flat as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the good old days.
Yeah. We're skiing this weekend. I'm excited about it. So.
Well, could we get a video so that we could just, let's see. So that's how you got the long arms, just the stretching out.
Yeah,
and
water skiing.
And so that was your family's thing.
Yeah. Well, it was my dad and I's thing. So we would practice 2 to 3 times a week, water ski tournaments on the weekends growing up.
Oh, wow.
And I would go to Florida for water ski school. And so that was kind of my personal sport. I loved it because it was something, that I did on my own.
Did you live on a lake or something that usually like these kids have to like, could you do a dock start?
I was a double boot, so I didn't.
Right.
I didn't slide the back foot in. So
all right.
Kind of hard to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we all grew up differently. When you grow up with 8 kids in Southern California, you don't know friends that even have boats. We can grow up with money.
Yeah.
And so I didn't pick up surfing until much later in life. But yeah, wow.
We went to
2-3 times a week. Oh my goodness, that would.
And it was like not friend time. Like my friends were not invited in the boat. And it was practice time. I'd go and I'd hit the water and friends weren't invited. Like
I have to go like early in the morning to get the glass, right?
Yeah. Or right at evening.
Right.
So my dad would usually pick me up after school and then we'd head up to the lake, practice time right before dark. And so I was driving the boat pretty young by 14. And so people would be like staring at me. I'm like little, just, But like driving my dad was hard because I'd have to stay straight down the buoy course and he's back, tagging,
and pulling.
And I'm like driving, like keeping it. Yeah. So, but it was awesome. So I grew up in a pretty competitive environment. And in order for me to cheer, I had to hold straight A's. Like my dad held that over my head. And so I couldn't even turn in the application unless I had straight A's. So I think I just grew up kind of in a pretty disciplined, high achieving environment from a young age and I've kind of carried it through.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so was your dad like friendly about the coaching? Like, was it fun for you guys or was it kind of like all business? You knew that he was counting on you and he wasn't accepting anything but perfection.
I think
were you holding yourself or was he holding you?
Both, for sure. I think that's where I felt, I would say like, my greatest achievement and success, that's when I heard it was, good job when I skied well or something like that. And so I wanted that. Like I craved that. What little girl doesn't want their dad to be proud of them?
Yeah.
And so that's where I learned to strive for it. And we have the greatest connection on the water. It was just my dad and I. I have a younger brother and he's 7 years younger. So I kind of felt like I was an only child. And so I am grateful for that time that I had on the water. And that's probably why I love water skiing so much. Honestly, it's more like, because that was Daddy and I's time versus like the actual act of water skiing. Even though I'm excited to put my ski on this weekend.
Oh, that's great. Do your kids water ski?
Well, we don't have a boat. So they've missed out on it.
Right.
But they're going to this weekend. So
that's fun.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, I'm telling you, that's how we separate the people from the people who can water ski, like slalom ski, and the people who just surf.
Yeah.
It's not even
wakeboarders.
Really even
I'm going to see my way out.
We'll keep you over there.
I did ski a couple times, but it wasn't slalom. It was, and then I was like, found the wakeboard, and I'm like, why am I doing that?
Yeah. I know nobody even water skis anymore. So
they don't actually. Just don't.
It's like a lost art.
It really is. No, it really is. Because it was always fun to watch. When I had a friend that they did water ski. That's the only time I went out on a boat was when I moved to Idaho, and I had a friend that had a boat.
Yeah.
And he had a brother-in-law that we would wakeboard, but he slalomed. And watching that guy just rip from side to side, crazy. And you could feel the boat move.
Yes.
It was like, holy cow. Like it was impressive to watch for sure.
So now we know why Chelsi has those lats.
Yeah. It's mostly traps.
Oh, traps, lats.
Yeah. Yeah, right here. Yeah. We've always been large and in charge.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Okay, so you didn't aspire to become a bodybuilder when you were young?
No, I didn't really know it was a thing till I started teaching group fitness. And then just seeing those girls walk past the group fitness space and over to the big boy weights, and I just saw transformations happening. And so obviously being in the gym, you're in that environment, you start to get curious and start asking questions. And I always had a dream inside to potentially do it someday, but I never, thought that I could do it. And so I just kind of kept it inside. And we were actually at a barbecue with some friends, and there was a guy there that was, talking about bodybuilding and just sharing that he was a trainer and stuff. So,
and he's 8'7". I mean, how big is he? I'm like, he's like, I don't know, but he is the scariest, biggest man I've ever seen in my life.
My trainer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my lifting coach. Yeah.
So imagine Chelsi. She's 5'3", but with a wingspan of 7 feet, and all 7 feet himself, wide and tall. His shoulders,
just like Goliath,
are so enormous. And so Chelsi starts telling me about working out with Dan. And here's what she would tell me, just to make me feel better. I cried yesterday when doing legs because I'd be complaining about whatever I was trying to do, my extensions or leg press or whatever. Yeah, you're not even crying. You're not even trying.
No.
And, I'm looking at Chelsi, and Chelsi's physique is amazing. And it's kind of like, let's be honest, it's like never trust a skinny chef. Your trainer better be freaking ripped, which is why I can't be a trainer, according to Connor, my son. I don't want to be a trainer. I'm just kidding. But Chelsi has this amazing physique. And even when she's she'll say this, she's like, I'm pretty fluffy right now. And I'm like, gross. Okay, Chelsi. But it's interesting how Chelsi saw herself. In fact, she told me, and we're talking about how you see yourself on the inside. That was, and we'll probably loop back around to this again, but that was one thing that I was having a hard time with, is that I didn't see myself as somebody who was strong and fit. I saw myself, frumpy and crafty, cute, but but not strong and fit, right? And Chelsi said that her goal, so we were sharing goals, and my goal was to wear a swimsuit without and go to the pool without putting on a towel every time, you have to get up. Okay, so I wanted to embrace whatever it was. So we were coming into summer. That was big. That was a big goal. And I wasn't nobody could be at the pool. I was going to do that. It was just going to be me practicing all by myself.
Practicing by yourself at the
just
pool.
Walking around without a towel around me. But anyway, Chelsi was like, my big goal this summer is that I'm going to wear shorts. And I was like, pick something hard. Come on.
Yeah. And I didn't like my legs.
Talk about that.
And that was one of the things that I told Dan. I said, I just want to like my legs. And it goes back to when I was cheering. And I remember cheering at a basketball game, and I overheard the boys behind me talking about my legs. And they were talking about how big my quads were. And I immediately was self-conscious. And I've always felt like I've had big legs and been very uncomfortable in, how big my legs were. And I think about it now and I'm like, it's probably because they were jealous.
No, like that's what ladies don't understand.
So like, I can fit my hands around my quads.
That's what ladies understand. Guys look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, those legs are like crazy strong." Yeah. Like I have my softball player that was here at UVU. She has calves, and she's a softball player, and she has these calves, and she's always like, I don't like my calves. I'm like, are you kidding me? Every guy that looks at your calves is jealous of your calves. They're like, oh my gosh, know, but. Yeah. And it's all perception though, right?
Yeah, 100%. So that was my goal. I literally did bodybuilding so that I would like my legs. 6 months of prep.
I mean, you guys, and we should just show a picture here so that you can see what her big insecurity is. Not to make light of it, but like she has got these amazing, amazing legs. And I think that when she told me that, I was so taken back because here I am looking at Chelsi's physique and amazed at the kind of weight she can move. And here's the thing, like when we're working out, she doesn't come in and like moves the kind of weight that I see her move on Instagram. Because she doesn't want to squash me like that.
Can't ruin your dreams.
But it was so interesting to me to know that she had any insecurities. And at this point in our conversation, as we're talking about like loving yourself on the inside, Chelsi told me one of the struggles that she had dealt with forever. And I'm not putting her on the spot. I did ask her if it was okay if we talk about this. But do you remember telling me, well, what she had said is, one day I ate an entire Costco-sized bag of chocolate-covered cinnamon bears in one sitting. And I was like...
I'm not going to lie, I can do that. Like, I could totally do that. I love the chocolate covered cinnamon bears. Yeah. That's not a hard thing to do, I'm just going to be honest.
No, that is a lot. Yeah, a 5-pound bag.
Costco.
See, that's what I need. I'm trying to get weight on my son. I'm like, that's what I need to do. Give him 5-pound bag of chocolate-covered cinnamon bears.
Protein. If you get the protein cinnamon bears, it's fine, right? Like,
just sprinkle some protein powder on top. It's fine.
Could you mix protein with like, you know, those? Yeah, you know, you get the melts from Michael's, and you could mix protein in that and like dip it. Maybe we're onto a new product.
Yeah,
protein cinnamon bears. Anyway, all jokes aside, Chelsi says I ate an entire bag, a 5-pound bag, and I was like. Girl, like, I mean, I'm going to tell you my Skittles story in a minute, but like, I was like a 5-pound bag. This is not normal consumption, which then kind of brought up this conversation. So take it away.
Okay. And that was after my first bodybuilding show that I did that. But I've had an unhealthy relationship with food most of my life. And when I started to heal, like I went to hypnotherapy specifically for it, because after my first show, I guess it was after my second show that I did the hypnotherapy, but that was one of my struggles. Reverse dieting after a bodybuilding competition is absolutely 10 times harder than cutting. I would much rather cut.
Says nobody else ever.
Yeah. Until you've experienced it,
which I haven't.
You are starving,
right?
But you cannot eat to you can never feel full because you're so hungry. But if you do that, you will blow up. You will gain fat so fast, and so you have to have so much self-control. Coming out of a show, you slowly build your calories back up, just like you slowly cut them down to get to the show. You have to slowly. But it's a lot different when you're working towards a goal date, like, and you're about to be up on stage in floss and rhinestones. So it's pretty easy to like control the food. But when you don't have a goal coming out, like why do I need to control? And so, but I was thinking back, like, when did this start? And I was super busy. I would go to cheer practice early in the morning at 6 a.m., go to school, and then I would go to work after. And I worked for my uncle. He was actually a chiropractor. And he called me up, and it was my first job. And so I would, sit at the front desk after school, but I was not smart enough to pack food. And my aunt would work in the morning, and then I would come out after school, and she always had like wheat thins and had snacks under, in the desk. And I was always starving. And so I would like sneak these wheat thins. And I felt so bad about it. Like, why didn't I just think to like pack my own snacks? But I never did. And so like, that's when I started sneaking food when I was so hungry, because then from there I would go to a game to cheer after, and then I would be done till 9 or 10 at night. And so that's when I noticed like that's when it started, that's when I started sneaking food. And fast forward to, later in life when we're stressed out, a lot of times, we all have our thing that we're binging or we're sneaking or whatever. And mine, I would stress eat. And Gordon had some tumors behind his eardrums. And it was a really hard time for us. And I didn't know
financially and health-wise.
Yeah. I was like, am I going to end up being a single mom of 4 kids? And so at the time I was, teaching 12 classes during the week. I think I was actually at Orange 3 at the time. So I was teaching about 20 classes during the week.
Wow.
And then I was also working graveyard shifts on the weekend for JetBlue. And so my family would go to bed and I would hit the pantry. And I would eat and eat and eat until I threw up a lot of times. And I never could feel full. Like I could literally eat 10,000 calories, like The Rock. Like I could put that guy to the test, right? Like seeing his 10,000 calories, like I could totally do that. And I just never felt full. I know my metabolic health was wrecked, right? For one. And so I hid it for a long time. And I'll never forget the last thing that I binged on, and it was around the holidays. My mother-in-law makes the most amazing toffee, and I binged on her toffee. And I remember after that episode, like I was so mad at myself. Like, how can we do this? I'd had so many conversations with myself. Like, we're done with this. We are going to stop the cycle. You are better than this. You're stronger than this. You are a coach. You're training people. Like, you have to act and play the part. And so after that, I made the commitment, like I have to do something to take back control. And so part of bodybuilding for me was to learn self-discipline around food, because it was my biggest vice. And it was an incredible journey of learning that self-discipline. But then coming out of the show, the reverse part was so hard every single time.
I want to say, first of all, thank you for sharing, because particularly when the thing that you're known for and the thing that you're being praised for and the thing that, like, here's the thing about Chelsi. If anybody in our area, like, everybody knows Chelsi and her classes and the way that she teaches. When you walk into the gym and Chelsi greets you, she gives you her energy. And here's the thing. I'm an angry elf. Like, I'm an angry person. And I didn't used to be this way always, but life just had taken a toll. And so I would come into the gym angry a lot of times. And there'd be times when I'm like, we're not talking today. Like, literally. And there's this really cheerful lady that would
yeah, that's
like,
the best, right?
Son of a, like, literally, Heather, bless your freaking heart. But it, like, Chelsi has this incredible energy and this ability to motivate people and lift people and inspire people just by who she is and how she is, and her confidence in you carries you, right? And to know that she was struggling with that, first of all, it made me love her even more. The fact that I knew she hated her legs and she had a problem, I was like, we are friends, because who wants to be friends with that perfect person? You can't.
You realize she's human. You know what I mean? Like, because we have this false perception of people, and we see them and we see them, like, even like from yourself, the way you saw yourself,
right?
But where everybody else looked at you, probably in a very different light.
Right.
Same with Chelsi and every human. It's everybody though. It's every human.
I wasn't happy when I found out. Like I wasn't.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But I think that the respect that I had, because it's sometimes we see people that are achievers and we think that, oh, it just comes easy. Like I could never do that because it doesn't come easy for me. And obviously for you just, and to get to a place where she could share that with me. And it wasn't just like, well, 15 years ago or 25 years ago when I didn't know better. It was her having real struggle in real time and having to look at herself in the eye. And that contextualized so much for me. And even though my issues were different, she was somebody that I could listen to and learn from. I mean, with the exception of all the things you told me that I rejected. But I think that when Chelsi came into the gym and she told us that she was going to start training for a show, and I thought to myself, gross.
Yeah.
Did you think that, or did you have to say it out loud?
No, I probably said it. Like Helen Baker said, no, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what Dan looked like yet. Like when I found out what he looked like, I was really scared. But she said to me, I want to understand what the human body is capable of. She wanted to prove that to herself. And the minute she started training with Dan, and she got even more ridiculously intense as a trainer, let me just tell you, because it was now like every single time I'm like doing my thing and she's like, no, you got to get it. You got to feel the stretch.
Full extension.
And I'm like, no, because if you let it go all the way to the extension, you got nothing. And the form became so much more vital. Like I could feel the Dan-ness pouring out of her into me, and I was suffering for her. It was her enthusiasm and her excitement over what she was learning every single time. Like, and what she was experiencing, the breakthroughs that she was experiencing, that she was trying to get me excited about, were really so inspiring. And she was talking about her visualization. And she was talking about the things that Dan would say, which, let me tell you what he'd say. It's just wait.
Push it.
I'm like, okay, that doesn't even help me. How's that supposed to help?
That's what was so crazy, though. Literally, like, if I didn't know, like, how much, like, where he was putting the pin or how much weight he was loading on, and I would just pick it up and do it, it was a completely different experience than me, like, freaking out about picking up a 60-pound dumbbell to go into a chest press. Like, I never in a million years thought that I would pick up a 60 or 70-pound dumbbell to do chest press. Like, what chick does that? Like, and then having 8 plates on the leg press, and the dude sitting next to you is like
doing 6.
Yeah. So, like, Dan literally taught me that it's just wait, push it. And when you are able to accomplish something like that and push something so heavy, at the time, and I had just started prep, and a month later, we lost one of my nephews to suicide. And then a month later, another nephew got in a motorbike accident.
And died.
And yeah. And then 2 months later, my sister-in-law died. And here I am, and I just kept going to the gym and pushing weight and pushing weight and pushing weight, never really processing what was happening. And then a month before my show, my first show, my parents told me they were getting divorced. And at this point, I was just like, okay, what's next? And so it was a hard time in our marriage too, for Gordon and I. I was lifting at night. And so I would do all the things that I felt like I needed to do as a mom. I would check the box. I'd get the homework done. I'd get dinner on the table. The house is clean. And then my reward was going to the gym. And here he comes at the end of a long day of work, and he's mourning the loss of family members. And all he wants is his friend, his best friend, who is headed to the gym. So my marriage is falling apart, and he wasn't excited about me bodybuilding in the first place. And so about 5 weeks before the show, he says to me, "Can I tell you something without offending you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro. Like, I'm building a superhero suit." He's like, "I'm not attracted to you right now." And at the time, like, I just like let it not faze me, right? But my subconscious heard that. And so as soon as I came off of the stage, I wanted to get attractive again. And so I started binging again. And then I got angry at myself because I went back to my old patterns. And so what did I do? I signed up for another show so that I could get fit again. And so it was just like this total mind game that I was playing with myself. And it was unhealthy, extremely unhealthy. And I know that I'm not the only one in the industry that has experienced it, but you watched it firsthand.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that I'd never been up close to a bodybuilding experience. And it is cuckoos for coconuts. Like, it is it is wild. And the amount of discipline that it takes and the way, this is a funny thing. Like, Chelsi's butt cheeks, you know how your butt cheeks like touch?
Yeah, nobody tells you these things when you're prepping for a show.
Like, there's a space. There's a butt cheek gap. That is not natural.
Yeah, when your butt cheeks get so lean, they don't touch anymore.
It's just pure muscle now. Now it's just muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could not control my farts. My kids had not heard me fart until my butt cheeks couldn't touch to keep it quiet.
But it's so interesting, like, psychologically, she was having like body dysmorphia, looking at this person that she had created in the mirror, but not totally being connected to it. And then having things emotionally in her life not aligning. And I think that as an observer, I certainly didn't know how to support. I didn't understand until much later. I was witnessing this construction, deconstruction, construction, deconstruction, and listening to the stories and realizing that this is how people become coaches. This is how people become somebody that can save somebody else because they know it firsthand. You cannot learn what you learned about the body, about what it's possible. You couldn't have learned about the soul and how essential the soul is. And this is me, like, again, like, all jokes aside, the level of resistance that I'm having to going in deep into what my belief system is and what I wanted from myself. And Chelsi saw things in me and believed in me in ways that I still didn't believe in myself because I was hearing stories in my head. And what a beautiful thing, like, all the things that we go through in our lives, every one of us has these experiences that have made us the coach that we are, equipped us to be a mentor for somebody who is struggling in whatever way. And I think that all of us can benefit from turning to people that have been through these things, that have constructed them and deconstructed them and constructed them and deconstructed. And I think that women in this age, in this going into the second half of our lives, we have been through so many deconstructions and reconstructions. And the wisdom that we possess in our bodies is so significant. And sometimes we hate ourselves for those deconstructions and reconstructions because we wish we would have known better. We wish we would have known before, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's this quote. I literally think about it every single day. Maya Angelou, that you have to forgive yourself for the things that you didn't learn yet. And sometimes, if you're like me, and even if you're like Chelsi, and maybe even you, Dr. Watts, but I don't know yet. Sometimes you have to learn the thing 5 times. And then you think you know, and then you have to go back and you have to learn it again.
Yeah.
Here's what was the crazy thing, though. When I'm viewing Chelsi as the pinnacle of the human form, and she's winning, and watching her body bulk and cut, which frankly, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, why would anybody bulk? I just wanted to cut, I wanted to get in my pants. I didn't want to. She was like getting to the point where she's like, I don't fit in my clothes. Like her muscles were too big to fit in her clothes, like, but what was happening to her body on the inside that wasn't visible is probably what then started to really teach you the crazy lesson.
100%. Yeah. And, I wish that I would have, we all say I wish I would have known sooner, but coming out right after my first pregnancy, that's when I think my thyroid started to tank. And so this is over 19 years ago. I literally lost my libido. And I thought I was broken. Like I felt,
wait, do people have libidos? Okay, sorry. Sorry, sidelight. Okay,
women. Yeah, like I did, got married, like life was good. And then I had a baby. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, where'd it go? And so then, and I'm not a fake person. I think that's what was so hard for me is I'm not fake. And so I didn't want to fake it. I didn't want to fake that I wanted to. And so I went along for several years just feeling completely broken. Like literally on my knees, like praying to God, asking for my libido to come back so that I could feel feminine. And so then my friends about 4 years ago, they're like, Chelsi, you need to go get your blood work done. And I'm like, okay, what for? And they're like, you need to get your hormones tested. You need to get on some testosterone. If you are not wanting this, like, you need to get on some testosterone. You'll be fine. So,
did someone named Heidi say that?
So, yes, another Heidi. And so I went in and I got my labs done, and I started on testosterone and progesterone right away, and it came back. And I was like, oh my gosh. And Gordon was so excited. Like it'd been a long time, right?
How long?
So 1 month.
No. How long was it gone for?
Oh, it'd been like 17 years.
So like the majority of your marriage?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because we right after we had our first, it tanked.
Mm-hmm.
So then for a month, I'm like, I'm feeling good again. But then my period didn't start again the next month. And then libido faded. And my doctor at the time, I told her, I haven't had a period. And she's like, well, are you planning on having any more kids? I'm like, no, I'm good. And she's like, then you're fine. You'll be okay. So at that same time, I'm going into bodybuilding. I'm thinking I'm going to lose my period anyway. It's not a big deal. So I have my 2 years run of bodybuilding. And then I go to a coaching conference, and there was a company there that I was talking to a doctor, and he's like, wait. How long has it been? And he's like, Chelsi, you need to get your period back. That is a sure sign of health for a woman, and you need to treat this as a priority. And at that time, I knew, like, I felt different. Something was off in my body. My joints ached and I didn't feel well. And I knew that I couldn't step back on stage or my marriage was going to fall apart. And so I decided it was time to, like, get serious about it. So I went in
getting healthy.
Yeah. So I went in and did some more labs, and they didn't really see anything at the time. But then a company called me and asked if I'd be interested in doing some virtual labs. They'd come draw my blood at home. And I was like, sure, free labs. Well, in that test, they did a thyroid antibody test, which my doctor had never done, even though my thyroid was going up and down for the 3 years that he'd been running my blood. And so in that test, it was supposed to be under 60 and I was at 798.
Whoa. For TPO antibodies were?
Yeah. And I was like...
Yeah, it's supposed to be under like 14.
Yeah. So I take that lab test into him and he's like, oh yeah, you've got Hashimoto's. And I'm like, well, why didn't you test me for this? So then I lacked faith in my doctor and didn't really know what to do. So I go home and there's a Facebook ad that popped up and said, do you feel like your doctor's been missing something? I was like, yes. So I watched this Zoom call.
That freaking
yeah.
algorithm.
Oh no, that algorithm is real. And I think it's not even what you say. It's like it somehow picks up your thoughts.
Seriously.
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. So I watched this free Zoom that talked about the 5 differentials in the blood. And long story short, I like geeked out, did an Excel spreadsheet of my past 3 years of blood. And it was
Let's
right
just repeat
there.
This really extreme. Because who even like has copies of their blood panels going back 5 years? And okay,
you can look them up online.
Okay, but you have to log in.
Yeah. Remember to log in.
I mean, I don't even know what email address I was registered under.
So I geeked out and I saw like what she had shown on that Zoom call is I had an autoimmune right there 3 years prior, and my doctor had missed it. And then that's how Dr. Watts comes into the picture. I was on an education call talking about, gut health, and he was talking about his experience with helping women with Hashimoto's. That's me. And he started sharing that you can heal. And I had hope again. And then I took a deep dive into gut health.
It was devastating. I do remember when you got, and I actually don't know what I don't know what Hashimoto's is. So maybe we could just take a second and define that. But I remember you, like it was a death sentence. Like you were devastated. It was like all of your dreams, everything you'd worked for, flush it down the toilet. And your doctor was saying, you have to stop lifting weights. You have to stop everything that you're doing. And like her entire identity was cut up in this. So will you define it?
Yeah. So, I mean, Hashimoto's is pretty simple. You run your thyroid panels. You got a lot of different markers. I normally run like 8, 9 different markers to see what the health of your thyroid is. When you get Hashimoto's, it's an antibody test. So it just tests to see, do you have an autoimmune, meaning your body's attacking your thyroid. And so I always tell this to every Hashimoto patient is there's nothing wrong with your thyroid. So let's just tell you, you do not have a thyroid condition. You have an immune system problem. Your immune system is so out of whack that it is attacking your thyroid. So if we can calm your immune system down, your thyroid can function normally. And most women...
I'm sorry, this is ignorant. No. Is this any autoimmune...
Yes.
System is...
Yeah, so it's what it is. It's the same.
There's lots of different autoimmune systems.
Yeah, there's a lot of different autoimmune disease, right? Yeah.
Different parts of your body.
Correct. And so they're all the same. It's your body attacking that organ, like with diabetes, is attacking your pancreas, is attacking, celiac. You have all these different ones. So it's attacking the organ, but it's not the organ that's the problem. It's your body, your immune system that's the problem. And just so you understand this, why it's so important. Well, I'll back up. Most women, what I found, most women that have autoimmunity, they usually happens after their first or second child. And not all the time, but I would say a big percentage of the women that came in my office, when I would ask them, when did you start having thyroid issues? It was usually after their first or second child. And in my theory, this is my theory. So as Americans, we're already iodine deficient. Okay. And there's 2 hormones in with the thyroid, and it's T3 and T4. The 3 and the 4 actually tell you how many iodine molecules are attached. And so your body, the majority of what it produces is T4, and then goes and before it become an active form, meaning what your cell can use, it will release an iodine molecule, converting it to T3. And then the T3 is active form. Your thyroid only produces 7% of the hormone you can create is T3. So 93% is T4. So majority of it has to be converted. Then it's ready to be your cells to be able to utilize it, right? And with autoimmune, and what I found is this, and this is my personal theory. I don't know that I can find studies out there, but this is just my theory. We're iodine deficient naturally here in the US, just with our diet. Now you're pregnant. And when you're pregnant, you need iodine for cell growth. So the baby is sucking all the iodine you do have out of you in order to grow and for that embryo to become a baby, right? And so now you go for almost a year being massively iodine deficient.
Can I ask you a question? Also, if you were bodybuilding, would you need iodine for cell growth in muscle building, or is it just specifically?
You need iodine, period. But I'm this specific. I'm just talking about for like an embryo growing.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't go think you're going to take iodine, you're going to grow muscles. That's not what we're saying.
Well, I just meant but could that be something?
But you need it for good, healthy. Just for one. I mean, there's a number of things you need iodine, but you need iodine for a healthy thyroid, right? So now you're massively iodine deficient, and you can just imagine what that does to your system in general. And then there's a gut. The big part is there's a gut element to it as well, where your gut is just all sorts out of whack. Maybe you've been on antibiotics, but your gut microbiome is messed up. You deal with a thing called gut permeability, or most people know it as leaky gut, and all these contribute to that. And the big thing too, aside from that, I want to talk about the period part. What you don't understand is, like, think about this. You compound that with thyroid issues, right? But when you have your period, you actually also detox when you're on your menstrual cycle. And so now you've gone for however long,
2 years,
with not being one of your natural detox systems is through your menstrual cycle. So now you're not getting rid of some of these toxins. So you're accumulating these toxins in your body. Your immune system is trying to protect you from these toxins as well. So you have this toxic buildup on top of it. So yours was like a perfect storm.
Oh, yeah.
Of all those combined.
For sure. Well, my mom actually has Crohn's disease also. So she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease after my brother. And so that, I'm sure that those genes were passed on to me, just waiting. And I think one of the reasons I actually felt so good in my bodybuilding prep was I was avoiding gluten, dairy, and sugar. Right. I was eating whole foods. I was eating really clean and so I actually felt amazing when I was on prep. It was when I came off of prep and went back to normal and was reintroducing all those things that my body didn't like. And so I blew up. I gained 30 pounds really rapidly. And then my confidence tanked. Like in 3 months, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, well, gluten is a big trigger for autoimmune thyroid specifically.
Yeah.
So when you have leaky gut, now you're eating gluten, and gluten is seeping into the blood where it doesn't belong. It triggers an immune response, and more specifically, and I mean, there's a number of different ones, but that's for thyroid specifically. That is a big trigger for autoimmune thyroid. So now you're feeling good because you're avoiding some of these things that are triggering that autoimmunity. Just because you have the markers doesn't necessarily mean that you're in an active autoimmune state, meaning it's attacking you, right? Mm-hmm. So because you're eating clean, super clean, was probably what saved you from having all those horrible symptoms, and then you go right back to normal, and now that gluten is triggering the autoimmunity again.
Yep.
And so, that's exactly why you felt like crap.
Yep. So I came off of those things again and worked closely with Dr. Watts to start focusing on gut health. My stomach acid was low. I was full of SIBO and H. pylori, and I was a hot mess.
Well, and here's talk on genetics. Okay. So we've talked about genetics before. Genetics, that's a big thing that we go back to because the doctor said, oh, well, it's in your family history. So it's genetic, you're going to have it. But genetics don't really work that way. You look at epigenetics, it's like a light switch. You may have those DNA markers for it, but it doesn't mean they're turned on. So for example, certain things can turn those on, like gluten can turn that light switch on and turn that autoimmunity on. but you have a healthy diet. That's why a lot of people go off gluten and then their symptoms go away because now they've kind of turned off that gene with diet, right? But it's once again, you're not fixing the problem,
right?
You're temporarily fixing because you have a good diet. Once you turn it back on with that diet, it's right back on. And here's a question for you. This is whatever. Were you normal birth or were you cesarean birth?
Normal.
Okay. So the other part to it is most autoimmunity is linked to gut health in your microbiome. And so you think about, well, there's also a genetic, or I wouldn't even say genetic, I would just say mother to children, right? So if your mother had a dysfunctional gut, which she definitely did if she had Crohn's and her microbiome, well, where do you think you're getting your microbiome when you're born? You're getting that from your mom. So that's where you're starting, is with that microbiome. So you are on the track and more likely to get autoimmunity if you don't address good gut health early on. And so that's a big thing too. It's really, it's the state of the mom. So like I have 3 daughters, make sure, very important to make sure that, hey, you have really good gut health before you start getting pregnant, because you want to be able to pass on the good microbiome. And the reason I asked about the cesarean is because when you pass through the vaginal tract, you're exposed to a certain microbiome as you're birthing. When you have a cesarean, and if you had children that you've had a C-section with, it's important to go and look at their gut and do a gut test, or just get them on some really good pre and probiotics, because they weren't exposed to certain bacteria, so they don't have certain bacteria that a normal birth child would have. And so that's one of the first questions.
Does that go on into periphery, like for
unless you're doing something different, like from certain diet where you can get certain microbiome, or because you're taking certain supplements or things like that. But yeah, you don't just magically get microbiome that you never were exposed to. You have to be exposed to it in some way. It's one of the first questions I ask to all my autoimmune patients. It's in my intake form. Were you a C-section birth? That's how far back. That's how far back I go when it comes to that. So the gut health and microbiome is so imperative and so important. It causes, and not just that, but aside from autoimmunity, I mean, the majority of your immune system is controlled by your gut.
Yeah.
So good gut health is also going to equal good immune system.
Well, one thing that was interesting to me too is I was diagnosed with ADHD at the same time. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And what I've noticed, like I was on Adderall for a bit, and then I stopped taking it. And you've talked about, like, if you heal the gut, you don't any longer need those things. And I don't have the same symptoms like I did before I'm still, a busy brain, but
and that's different too.
Different.
And I want to touch on that because there's a lot of, like, would you say you're ADD?
Yes.
Okay. I would say I'm ADD, you're ADD. You want to know what? Most of my high achieving friends are ADD. And really, I don't personally believe in it. Because I think what it is it is the gut. Yeah. Because you create 98% of serotonin, you create GABA, DOPA, all in your gut, and before it crosses the blood-brain barrier.
I just gotta say this: I hate it when we just talk about the gut because it stresses me out.
No. But it's the easiest thing. It's really an easy thing to fix. Yeah. But your brain health is dependent on your gut health, because if you don't have good gut health, you can't produce some of these neurotransmitters that you need, so that they can then cross the blood-brain barrier and get to your brain. But now, even you said, you still got a little squirrely brain, even though you don't feel like you have ADD, you still have a little squirrely brain. What that is, that's what how high achievers are. You sit in class, you're not doing your work because you have ADD. You're not doing your work because you're bored.
Yeah.
You're bored. This doesn't interest you. Because if you think of the things that interest you, I bet you can focus really well on it.
Yeah.
But things that don't interest you, like, they don't interest you. I posted a meme actually, like a week ago, and it was like, 7 months, or was it like 6 months of procrastination for something that took me 7 minutes to do once I finally did it.
It's so true.
But what it is, it's just, it doesn't interest you. And so even moms that have ADHD, their kids that have ADHD, ADD, that is diet, a lot of the dyes, they've already shown them. Since RFK Jr. has been in there, which is a blessing, regardless of, I'm not talking politics, I'm talking from a health perspective. He's already banned certain dyes that we know there's not a correlation. We know there's research showing that certain dyes, these red dyes, blue dyes, yellow dyes, they cause ADD. I'd have a patient come in, and mom would be like, if I give her mac and cheese, which has these yellow dyes, she will bounce off the walls. So it's dyes and chemicals, but also it's gut health. And so you fix their gut health, suddenly you have a kid who is doing well in mental health. Mm-hmm. So not just ADD, but mental health as well. They did a study back, like I think it was like in the 40s. It was early, somewhere between the 20s and 40s. I think it was like around the 40s in a mental institution, and they were taking people that are clinically insane. And they studied things differently than they do now. Like they did stuff back then that would be considered maybe unethical now. But what they did, they would take people, and the one instance they took somebody who was full-blown schizophrenic, and they gave them a fecal implant, which is healthy feces from a healthy person, which contains microbiome in there, and they implanted into the sick person or the mentally ill person. And this person and a number of people that they did this to completely reverse their mental illness. And it just goes all the way back to the microbiome and how important microbiome in the gastrointestinal tract is super important. So if you have an ADD kid, first of all, stop feeding them ultra-processed foods. And secondly, you really need to get their gut checked. And I guarantee you their gut's probably a mess. And if you fix that, you can fix this, what you think is a problem that they have to go on. Let's just call it what it is. Adderall is legal meth. Yeah. It's meth. It's a methamphetamine.
And I love it.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying, but the last thing you do is, if you can avoid putting, an 8-year-old kid on it, you know what I mean? Because it has its own challenges later on, but you're not destined to have to put your kid on medication just because your doctor says ADD. There's a few things. One, your kid's probably smart and is not interested in things that are not interesting to them. Yeah. And two, maybe their diet's not the best. And three, I guarantee their gut is messed up. And so work on those few things and you'll see amazing results with your children. And my mom saw, I was the ADD kid growing up that didn't exist in the 80s. So what they did instead is they just hold you back. Ritalin? No, it didn't even exist back then. So they've just held you back. So I remember first grade, I was getting held back. And I remember being bummed out about it as a kid that age. I tested in California, I tested in the 90th percentile for all the California standardized testing, but I had C average grades, right? Yeah. And then I got to second grade and there's 7 of my friends waiting for me who got held back in seventh grade, because that's how they dealt with kids that are hyperactive. It's you're putting an 8-year-old boy, telling him to sit down and be quiet for 8 hours on top of all these other things, and so you're not, there are plenty of things you can do. And one of the things my mom actually did, which is she would take me to chiropractor and she called it she'd take me in for an attitude adjustment. Yeah. And it would take me in there and it really would reset my central nervous system. And I would be this perfect little kid for about a week. But it really goes to show that it's more than just a medication. There's these things that you can do in even adults as well. It's your gut.
Yeah. And it's harder, right? We love to be able to take a pill.
Right. It's the American way.
It's easier. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting to watch Chelsi. And again, this is back when she was talking about this Dr. Watts that seemed like he was living in a weird lab somewhere. And Chelsi was learning all this stuff about blood panels and looking at her blood panels and looking at other people's blood panels. She's like, "Can I please look at your blood panel?" And then you started to see her start to unload this weight. And I think that I was blocking it out because we're going to be talking about gut health, even though it kind of stresses me out, but I would hear her talk about it and kind of tune it out because I'm like, okay, well, I don't have Hashimoto's that I know of, so I don't have to worry about it. And it was all consuming for Chelsi. And she's like, we got to get you gut health and here's all these supplements. And I was just like, well, no, please. But then I'm watching her and all of a sudden, and it really did move pretty fast. How fast would you say that you unloaded that weight?
Well, it took me about a year to release 30 pounds. Because it was like the first 15 was pretty quick. Then I kind of hit a plateau and it got sticky. And so it took about a full year.
And then your whole methodology really shifted.
Yeah. Well, one of the conversations I had with Dr. Watts was, contemplating doing a blood specialist certification. And I remember you saying to me, Chelsi, if you can read blood, you'll know more than half the doctors in America. And I was like, holy crap. And so I did. I went for it. And it was one of the best things I could have done.
We need a list of all your certifications.
Oh, man.
She's certified in literally everything.
Then Gordon will know how much I've spent. I should be a doctor with all the...
She literally spends every penny on getting another certification.
Yeah. But knowledge is power. Like, it's so worth it.
It really is. And the microbiome is not just the gut. We talk about microbiome. Microbiome. I mean, there's a company, really good company, Microbiome Labs, and that's all the supplements, all they sell. They don't sell vitamin D or anything. It's just, and they're probably that's who I would send people to if they want to get a really good probiotic, because it's very specific, because we have microbiome in all of our organs. A lot of women deal with, which is very uncomfortable for a lot of women. They deal with vaginal issues.
Yeah.
And they just can't seem to get rid of it, or it keeps coming back.
Like yeast infections,
and sometimes just odors and stuff like that. And it's because you have microbiome imbalance. And so they think they want to do certain things, like for example, like douching. That's like one of the worst things you can do. Yep, totally.
Because it will just strip it.
It'll mess it. It'll cause an imbalance. But there are actual specific probiotics that you can take that are specifically for the female sexual tract that you can take, and boom, something you've been dealing with for years and years, in a month, it's gone. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you would be amazed at how many women out there deal with this. It's quiet, because who wants to talk about that? Who wants to talk about, I suffer from, just a bad odor all the time. And it's like, no, you suffer from a microbiome imbalance, and it's an easy fix. It's actually a very easy fix.
Wow.
But most doctors don't know that. And most doctors won't tell you that. And they'll put you on some kind of medication, usually some kind of antibiotic, because they think they're having to kill something. It's like, you've already killed everything. That's part of the reason why you have the problem, is these antibiotics cause a lot of this problem. And so that's why a lot of women get like chronic yeast infections, is because they've been on probiotic or antibiotics, and it's killed the infection, but it killed everything else. And so here's what happens whenever you go on, and I'm not anti-antibiotic, there's a time and a place, but whenever you go on an antibiotic, it is imperative that when you're done with that series, that you go right into a really good probiotic to restore all the good bacteria you destroyed. Because if you don't, what will happen is it'll take up to 2 years for that microbiome to repopulate. And now it's going to repopulate based on whatever you are giving it, right? So your diet and foods and different things like that. And so if you have a ultra-processed food diet and you eat a lot of sugars and carbs, well, guess what? That feeds candida and it feeds bad bacteria. So now you have, like what you had, SIBO, like in your gut, you have a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, because you have an imbalance. You're always going to have some bad bacteria in there that your body's fighting off, right? But you should have it should be inverse. You should have a lot of good bacteria at this. And with SIBO, it's the opposite. You have way more bad bacteria than good bacteria, which causes all these different things, depending on what it is. It could be in the kidneys, so you have chronic yeast infections, or UTIs. I mean, it could be in the vaginal tract where you have chronic yeast infections. It could be in the gut where you have autoimmune issues or neurologic issues. So it's so important to know. And knowledge is power. And a lot of these things that you're not being told, it's just because they don't know. But a lot of those things are easy fixes, and women struggle and deal with some of these horrible things. Like I know women that have dealt with, patients that have chronic UTIs, and the reality, it's an easy fix. Wow. Just nobody knows to tell them.
I think here the takeaway as we kind of wrap up is that if there's, you can't ignore the things that keep popping up, right? And there's maybe stuff that's like from a really long time ago. There might be stuff that is fresh. And when stuff happens in life, we feel it in our bodies. I think that we say this a lot, or you say this a lot, like the body keeps a score. Yeah. As women, we can't ignore these signs and the things that our body's trying to tell us. Whether it's depression or anxiety and mental health stuff, whether it's sexual health stuff, whether it's, one of the things that I noticed when I started this menopause thing was that I knew that I had ADD my whole life, and I thrived in that. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't. Like, my processing didn't work, and then I went and tried to get medicated, and then I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep. And so then it was one thing or another. And as you can well tell, that I'm a little resistant to dealing with gut health issues. But I think that this time in our life, wherever you are, things that are nagging at you, it's for a reason. Don't ignore that. In fact, thank your body.
It's check engine light. It's your check engine light. And if you're ignoring it, that's the same as just putting black tape over it. So or pull out the light bulb so you can't see it.
Or when the
still there.
My whole thing, like, you get a creak in the car or something's rattling, you just turn up the music because it's perfect. You don't have to deal with it, right? And then you just sing and you don't even know, and it's great.
Well, and here's another big thing. I know we keep talking microbiome, but this is important because another thing, it's not just physical things like antibiotics or certain foods that destroy your microbiome. Stress, emotional trauma can destroy your microbiome. Yeah. And so when I talk about toxins, I include not just physical toxins like mercury and parasites and, different things. I talk about emotional toxins because we all know, and people go, okay, now we're getting woo-woo. And then I always cut them because I go, okay, what happens when you stress out? What organ will start to dysfunction? Your adrenals. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. It's an emotional toxin. But it's not just is it causing your adrenals to not function, but now it's affecting your microbiome as well. And so you have to understand that. And if you do have a stressful life, you know what, then that might be something. I'm not a big fan of like just going on supplements. And you know that from doTERRA, and people come and say, oh, what are you taking? Oh, I'm taking 13 things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a natural doc, but I'm like, you should know why you're on a supplement and you should have a purpose for it and a reason. And if you have a stressful life, then that might be a reason for you that you should be taking a daily probiotic, because those emotions will affect your health. Yep. Like physically affect them.
So probiotic. Oh my gosh. And this is what happens, right? And this is why we don't listen to our body, because then it starts to maybe overwhelm us a little bit. And we're like, okay, crap. Oh no, don't start talking about stress. Don't start talking about cortisol. I can't talk about cortisol right now, because you're like, right? But that is why we're here. And that is what we're doing here. And we are going to slowly but surely talk about these individual things that hopefully cause you. I want to invite you to be curious about it. And I want you to invite you to listen to your body. And even if you have to kind of write it down and track it a little bit and start taking notice, because you're supposed to feel great. You're supposed to feel good at any age. Remember, we know that aging doesn't mean to have your health decline. You can feel great at any age. What parts aren't feeling great? For a lot of us, it might be a lot of parts. And that can be scary and it can be overwhelming. And we're not here to be like, okay, now we're just going to rip it down, throw it out. Like, what we're here to do is talk about solutions that you can take on in your daily life, that if it works for you, great. Then that may trickle down and it may work for your kid. right? It may work for your parent. It may work for your neighbor. And then you become a resource for others because you took that time, just like Chelsi, to address those things that were nagging in the middle of the night. Those things that are nagging, those problems may become the brightest light for somebody else around you. And so it is worth it. And I want to acknowledge with my whole heart that it is scary and hard and overwhelming, especially when you don't know. But like, listen to this guy. It's so easy.
but you know,
we're going to find out why. I don't really know.
But it seems overwhelming. And trust me, when my thyroid patients would come in, it's not just their thyroid. When you have one autoimmune disease, you tend to have 2 or 3.
Right.
And if you go unchecked, it'll turn into 2 or 3 different autoimmunities. And so they have a lot more than just autoimmune. They had all other sorts of things going on. But you take a simple approach to it. Well, one step at a time. And when you realize it seems complicated because as doctors, we've made things complicated and we have these big words like aphasia and fibromyalgia, which is just a big fancy way of saying you have muscle tissue pain. And you're like, well, thanks, doc. I told you that. Really, I don't know what it is. So we call it these big fancy Latin words, which keeps doctors here and patients here and keeps you thinking that you have to seek a doctor in order to get better. And the reality of it is you don't. It's knowledge. And once you start to research, and that's one of the things we want to do here too, is not just provide all the answers, but also provide nuggets of like, hey, go read this, because when you go find the research yourself and you read the research, now your belief system changes because you're not just hearing it from somebody, but now you heard it and now you've also read the research. Now that your belief system changed, you go, oh my gosh, okay, this really isn't as complicated. And most health issues, I'm going to be perfectly candid, most health issues are not as complicated as they're made to be. There are some that are very complicated, but most are not. Most of them are just getting down to the root cause and fixing that root cause, because that root cause then has a cascade. Like when we talked about, so with like foundational wellness, this is that concept that I created about 10 years ago called the precursor to functional medicine. It's the work you do getting the field ready, getting your terrain ready, just like a farmer is going to go out and get the field ready before he plants, right? And it's the same with our bodies. When you have one thing off, and I realized this very early on when I changed this concept in my practice, very first patient I had come in, he had 37 markers all over the place. He was on hypertension medication, high blood pressure, thyroid, type 2 diabetes. I mean, you name it, he was on all sorts of stuff. And the first 4 months, all we did was just change his diet and lifestyle, eat real food, get out and walk 30 minutes a day. And then we started just detoxing his body and providing organ support to his organs. And then after 4 months, we got him off his medication before testing him because we wanted to get a true baseline of where he was at. And when his labs came back, he had 11 markers. Wow. And so what he told me was, all these health issues and diseases, those weren't the issue. There was this root cause, and once I got rid of these little root causes, it was a cascade that just went away. All the white noise went away. The only reason he had 11 markers left was because he's an alcoholic, and his liver and iron was out of whack, which we dealt with later. But if it wasn't for that, he would have gone from 26 markers to 0 markers just from doing that work. And so it seems complicated because you have all these things going on, but when you treat the root cause, a lot of this stuff is just white noise. It's because of the dysfunction that this root cause is causing that then unchecked then causes another thing. And you think you have all these things and really you just have this one thing. And when you fix that one thing, suddenly your body starts to normalize, your organs start to work again. And so it sounds scary, it sounds complicated, but really that's what's amazing about functional medicine. You get to the root cause and it really usually isn't as complicated as you think.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think really changed my perspective when I met you.
You got to tell the story how we met, because that's actually kind of funny.
Well, we're going to say that too the next episode. But you have a book coming out. Say the title of the book.
Foundational Wellness.
But say the byline, the next line.
Okay, what is the guy? You know what? They just, I have to pull it up here because I actually don't remember. It just came out. I just got the book cover done.
He just
yesterday.
showed it to me, and he said that nobody even had seen it. But it's so powerful. And it's exactly why I wanted you to come and be part of this conversation. Because the whole thing here is that I want myself and all of us to be empowered to take charge of whatever that 80-year-old woman looks like and what the vision is. And when you know that you have control over that, then the way you approach it is different.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So it's the simple system that ends doctor dependency forever. And the whole point of this book is I'm a firm believer that the mother is the first responder of the home. They're the ones that decide what water the kids drink, what foods they eat, and they're the ones that are taking care of sick kids and sick babies. So I wanted to create a book where it's like empower women to, hey, it's not as hard as you think. It's not as, some of these things aren't as scary. You know, these are things that you can do. If you understand these things, you can take control and feel empowered to take care of the health of your family without always having to run to a doctor.
Awesome.
Which I think the empowerment piece is so important. All right. Well, when we come back next time, we're going to kind of dive into some background with Dr. Watts so that you know. But before we do that, I think the takeaway here is that I'm wanting you to really take some time to figure out what your body's trying to tell you. What are the things that hurt? What are the things that you think aren't quite right? And maybe look under the hood just a little bit so that you can get curious about it and so that you're a little bit more receptive as we start to talk about some of these issues and what you can do to change the way that looks. So come back next time. Thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Dr. Vohn Watts, chiropractor and founder of Foundational Wellness, shares his insights on how the body functions as a whole system, along with the principles he uses to help people get on the path to better health. Please remember, the information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to replace medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Every person is unique, and your health decisions should always be made in consultation with a qualified healthcare professional who knows your individual circumstances. Neither Dr. Watts nor this podcast is responsible for any actions you choose to take based on the discussions in these episodes.